Hi everyone, my name is Arpan Ghoshal and I am from West Bengal. Uh, I started out with Elixir about 6 7 months. It has been a very interesting journey so far. And whenever I learned about like Gen servers and processes, these were a new thing for me. I basically came from Java and Ruby background, and so these were kind of new stuff for me, and I always wanted to explore them. So, going further into my project, I would like to tell what it actually does and why I decided to make this project. So, uh,
Arpan, sorry, you are not sharing your screen.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Is my screen visible? Uh,
Yes, it is.
yeah.
Thank you.
So, so I started out with this project. So basically, my work involved like loading a lot of CSV files into a database, basically MySQL database. And when doing these things, I faced a lot of problems because I was given say 200, 300 CSVs, and I had to load them to the database. And the problem was like where there were methods through which we could directly load data into the database, but the schema was the problem. So the tables were not created in the database, and manually analyzing the CSV, what are the different data types in the columns, what are the column names and everything, and then coming up with the table creation statements like create table, all those statements. So doing that manually was very tedious and was error prone, and something had to be done. So I came across some tools on the internet, but none of them like solved my problem. So I decided to build up Elixir project to solve the problem, as well as I wanted to implement something where I could like see the power of Gen servers and all. So that's how I had the idea of this. So basically, what this CSV to SQL does is you say you have a folder of say lots of CSVs, 4 5 GBs of CSVs, and you just it comes as a e script. I will talk more about it. So it's like an executable. You give it the path of the folder, and you give it your database username, password, whatever it is, and it will analyze all the CSVs. It will infer what are the column names, types, and all. It will create the tables in the database. It will insert all of the data from the CSVs into a database, and at the end it will run a simple validation like like the data was imported correctly. Like for example, a CSV had 150 rows, and the database table should also have 150 rows after importing. So it will check the count. So this is what it does. But the exciting part is like I have tried to implement Gen server. So because uh, using multiple processes have been very important in here, because if you have a lot of CSVs, this loading process takes a lot of time. And in our modern computers, we have like multiple CPU cores and processors and stuff. So we could utilize them to a large extent and get a better performance out of our machine using these processors. So that is where this thing is useful. And every phase of the app is like multi-process. So say multiple files are processed at once. A single file is inserted into the database at using multiple processes. Even the schema inferring part, that is also done in multiple processes. So everything is like runs in parallel, and this actually I've tested it out, and this actually gives me like huge performance benefits. Say if you are doing it like in a sequential way without any parallelism, and okay, so in that case, so you will say this parallel approach is almost like 3 4 times faster than that. And you can even see the CPU usage rises up to 80 90%. So you can see that it's utilizing the power of a machine. So without further talk, let's just dive into it. And one more thing I wanted to explain. So this is one of the first times I'm implementing actual Gen server. So the code is like I'm sure there can be better ways to do what I've done here, and it's just more of an educational purpose project. So it's more for learning. So with that in mind, let us begin with the demo. So first of all, I would like to show you how the app is working. So this is basically an executable. So this is an e-script. So if you're not familiar with an e-script, so e-script is basically you can create a small executable file of your Elixir project, and you can run that executable without any dependencies and without any setup you have to do. You just have to have Erlang installed in your machine, and that's it. So you can read about it. There's very good guides on the internet. Even I found about it when I started out with this project. So that's eScript. And here, see, in this folder I have about 200 CSV files. Okay, and it's about 300 MBs of data. So you can, I could have a bigger example, but for the like the presentation I chose this. So let me just start off with showing how this thing is working. So it has started. So while it is working, I like to say, so basically you give the name of the executable, then you give the source directory path, and then you give a DB connection string. So your MySQL username, MySQL password, host, and the database name where you want to insert the database. And it goes on with the inserting. So this will take some time. And while this is running, I would like to talk about some other stuff. So yeah. So before going into the code and talking about what I did, I just wanted to show you like an overview of how things are working over here. So basically, this is all implemented via Gen servers and supervisors. So our app, this CSV to SQL, has a like under the top level supervisor. Basically, we have all these Gen servers. There's a file server, there's a job queue server, main server, worker supervisor, and DB worker supervisor. So I'll explain a little bit about them. It will be much clearer when I go through the code, and even when going through the code, because it's a lot of things and we don't have much time, and I don't want to bore you with the details. So I will be going over only the interesting parts and the parts where I could use Gen servers and all. So yeah. So basically, there's a file server. This file server does what? Say you have a folder containing these 200 CSVs. So this file server actually serves these CSVs. So this is again a Gen server, and basically, it in its state, it keeps all these 200 CSVs, and it serves each of the CSVs to these worker processes, which I will talk about later on. So after that, let's talk about this worker supervisor. So basically, each of our CSVs are processed by a separate worker process. So these workers are actually pinging the file server for a file, and the file server provides the file to the worker, and it processes the file. Once it is finished with working with the file and inserting to the database and everything, so it will request for the next file and so on. So these workers keep on requesting this file server for the file, and that's all. So and then we have this main server. This main server is basically again a server which basically we start off with this main server, and this controls the flow of the like the thing. We'll get into the code, and then this will be clearer. And even as I said that when we are loading the individual CSVs to the database, then also that is done via separate processor and stuff. So for that, we need a database worker supervisor, which creates some database workers, and these database workers are basically responsible for actually inserting the data from the CSVs into the database. And there's a concept of there's another server known as the job queue server, which basically queues the data and gives it to these workers. So this might sound a little bit abstract and all. So as I explain, it will be clearer. But just this is a brief overview. So yeah. So our code was working, and it's still working, it seems. So it takes about 3 minutes, I think. So let it be finished. It will take like a minute or so. So while it is working, let us just start with the main application. So this is our main application, and I'll just show you. As I said, I've started out with all these. I've started all these worker, like all these servers, the file server, then the job queue server. These are all like basically the different Gen servers. Okay, so we'll start with the main server first. So okay, so this is our main Gen server. So let's go to the interesting part. I'm not going to explain the whole of the thing. So first we are basically initializing the number of workers we will be needing, right? So say this is completely customizable, and you can customize this using environment variables and using different flags and all. So you can customize the number of workers you will be using for inserting, like processing the CSV files. The workers here refer to, say you have 10 workers, that means 10 CSV files will be processed in parallel. Okay, and say you have 10 database workers, so you can expect that 10 of these processes will be writing to the database at once. So while increasing or decreasing the worker count can lead to, like better performance, you can experiment. But if you set it to an incorrect value, your system might freeze. And so I have like defaulted it to 10, so you will have 10 worker and 10 database worker initially. So basically we call the supervisors, and there's a add worker method which basically adds like 10 workers for 10 normal workers and 10 database workers. And that is first thing that we do. Okay, so as the workers start, basically this method is called the start new work. And this here the worker specifically basically requests the file server for the next file. So regarding the file server I haven't implemented myself. Basically there's a dependency known as dirwalker. You will find, if you have gone through that programming Elixir book, you will find they have given an example of this dependency. So this dirwalker basically is a dependency you can see here, basically. Yeah, this thing. So what this does is it uses a gen server and iterates over all the files in a directory, and it can serve you the files one by one. So it can keep track of the files that were already like served, and you will not end up processing duplicate files and stuff like that. So that is what it does. So I get the next file that is to be processed. Then ignore the if parts, they are like not very important for now. Basically you can configure all of the things in the app, like if you actually want to insert into the database, or if you actually want to say do a validation check or something. So only if those environment variables are set, then I do certain stuff. So that's why a lot of ifs. So ignore that for the timing. So first of all we make the schema for the file. So first, say we got a CSV file, we got the path of a CSV file, and we made the schema for that file. By making the schema, I say I want to say like we infer the data types of that CSV file. So say the CSV has 5 columns, and each of those columns have like different types of data. And what we are trying to do is like infer what type of data they are storing, so we can make the database tables as well as the column names and stuff. So that is what we do. Okay, so before proceeding further, I think our script has finished. So as you can see, it actually, what it does is it first infers the schema for the file, then it creates the schema. Inferring means it actually analyzes what type of data is present in the CSVs. Then it actually creates the table structure in the database, and then it starts with the data transfer. Once the data transfer is finished, then it finishes off. So it's doing it for all the files. And after we are done with this inserting thing, then the validation process starts. And here we are actually counting the count in the CSV. For suppose for this file the CSV had 10 rows, and in the database there were also 10 rows. So the count is correct, so this file is validated. So we validate all the files, and at the end it reports like the summary, and it reports the time it took. So you can see for 300 MB of data, 200 CSVs, it took about 286 seconds. So yeah, so this is how it works. So let me show you what it did actually. So you remember this folder had all the CSVs, but now it has only these 3 folders. So when a CSV has been imported into the database, it will be moved to this imported folder, and once it's validated, it will be moved to this validated folder. So all our CSVs are currently validated, and all of them are moved to this folder currently. And the schema file, it has also created a schema file for you to check. So you can open up this file, see it has created all these create table statements, and with these correct data types, and also it has written the schema to this file also. So this is what it has done. Okay, so now getting back to the code. We have started off with the worker, and the worker has requested a file from this file server, and we have made this derived the schema from the file. So I will go into how we are doing that later on. So we have made the schema for the file. After we have made the schema, we will insert the schema, that is we'll actually create the database table, and finally we will insert the data into the database table. So after we are done with all these, the worker is done with the current file, and when he is done with the current file, he sends a like a signal to himself, to because he needs to work for, like he needs to request the next file, right? So self will give us the PID of the worker itself, and we are giving it the message start new work with some configuration. So it will be calling itself once again, and when it's called once again, it will request the next file, and it will start processing the next file. So in this way, the worker will keep on requesting the file server for the next files, and it will process the files. So that's how it's working. And if the file server gives it nil, that means there's no more files left to process. So what it does, it sends a message to this main server. Basically, this method is like just an API type of thing. It will actually send a message to this main server, and it will say that I am finished with my work, so I have no more work to do. And the main server keeps track of like how many workers have finished, and once all the workers have finished with their task, it can carry out the validation phase and all. So I'll go into the details. So let me go into how the schema is made, and a little bit how I'm doing it, how I'm doing the type inference part. So it's very it's very simple. What I'm doing is yeah, I'm iterating over all the rows in the CSV. Say CSV has like 2 lakh rows, so I will be iterating over all the 2 lakh rows, and I will checking the type of each of the columns, like each of the data in each of the row. So currently we have support for these data types, like um, these data types: date, timestamp, boolean, integer, float, varchar, and text. So yeah, so I actually do type checking on these. So you can see we check whether it's empty, whether it matches a certain regular expression. So we can say it's a date. Similarly, timestamp, boolean, and integer. So we check whether each of the data in each of the row is like the data in each rows, what is the type of the data, and we do it for all of the rows, and finally we can make a like a guess of the type of data in all of the columns on the database. And from that we can ultimately infer the schema that I showed you. So after the schema is made in this manner, we go on and create the tables. So as I said, the schema making part was also parallel. So by parallel, if you think about it, say we have a database having 10,000 rows. So when we are analyzing the schema, we have to iterate through all of these 10,000 rows, and it might take a little bit time, although it is very fast, but still it takes a little bit time for say a huge CSV, say has 10 lakh rows or something. So we can break this task into processes. How we can do it is, like, say we have 10,000 rows, so we chunk out 100 rows at a time. So we chunk out 100 rows at a time, and then what we do is we assign processes, and we give every process a particular chunk. So say we have 10 chunks, okay, so 100 rows, say 100 chunks, so that makes up like 10,000. So 100 chunks, and we assign like 100 processes, and each of these process will get a chunk of its own. And the task of the process will be to analyze the schema for that chunk. So we will be analyzing the schema for parts of the same CSV file parallelly, if that makes sense. Like we will be like one of the processes will be inferring the schema for say the first 100 rows, the second process will be parallelly inferring the schema for the next 100 rows, and this actually makes the thing parallel. So what happens is, for a small CSV file, this actually is an overhead. So you will see that this leads to greater time, like the time taken is more than the sequential approach. But when you have a huge CSV file, like in GBs or something, this thing actually makes a huge difference. So the time is taken is much lesser. So I'll show you how I have done it. So yeah, so in this path we have actually have the path of the CSV file, and then we call file.stream. File.stream is like streams the CSV file. So if you are not familiar with streams is like you are lazily reading the file. So say if you have a CSV file of 1 GB, you don't want to load the CSV file all at once in memory, otherwise you will like run out of memory, right? So what you do want to do is you want to read it, like as you process it you want to read it. So that's what stream does. It stream sets the contents of the file, and as we get the stream, we parse the stream. So basically I have used a CSV parser. There's a CSV parser known as Nimble CSV. It's made by Joseph Allen only, and it's very fast because it parses the CSV using pattern matching. So I've used that. So this method does that. It parses the file stream and gets the CSV. And then this is something that I was talking about. So this chunk every does what? So say what will be the chunk size? So say, as I said in the example, that I will be chunking out 100 rows at once. So what will be the chunk size? That is also configurable. By default it is 100, so you can change it, but that's it. Like you can change the chunk size. So this stream, say it picks up the first 100 rows and then it assigns a task. So I could have done it using say like primitives of the language, like using send, receive blocks, but this task was very it was easier because it comes with Elixir comes with this. So there's a task module which enables you to do certain tasks in the background as a if you do want to do something in a background process or something. So this is helpful. So what this does is I pick up a chunk of 100 rows and I assign it a separate process, and this process will call this infer type method. This method is given here. So it does some type inference. So the thing I just explained, that determining all the data types and stuff. So it does that, and that is what it's basically doing. So it's picking up, so going through the flow once again. So it's streaming the file, parsing the CSV from that file stream, chunking up 100 or whatever row size you have specified, 100 rows at a time, say, and then it's assigning a separate process for each of the 100 row chunk, and it's processing each of the chunks parallelly. So after all of these processes have finished up determining the types of their respective chunks, what happens is this enum.reduce actually reduces all of their say their output. So for example, say we had 10 processes, and the first process said that my chunk had the first row was of type int, the second row was of type varchar, and so on. The second process might say something else. So like this, each of the process comes up with the type it analyzed, and here we actually reduce all of their outputs, and we give an output like what will be the type of the entire file, what will be the scheme of types for the entire file. So that's what we are doing in here, nothing like very complicated or something. So I'm not going into the details of this. So this is basically the interesting part. So chunking files and doing it parallelly using multiple processes. So this is how the database schema is inferred, and after this this schema is inferred, we go on and we start inserting the schema into the database. That is actually creating the database tables. The tables will be empty initially, but we'll be inserting data later on. So yeah. So after this make schema part is over, then we actually call this insert schema part. Okay, so insert schema will actually insert the schema into the database, that is actually make the database tables. Okay, and then we go into the insert data part. So the insert data will be actually inserting the data into the database. So the CSVs will be actually read, and actual job will be carried out here, that is the data will be transferred to the database. Okay, so yeah. Um, yeah. So regarding this inserting data into the database, so one approach could be reading each of the CSVs single row wise and inserting the rows. But a better thing that I found is if you are inserting a bulk amount of data, Ecto, I have used Ecto for inserting accessing the database, by the way. So what is suggested is if you are loading like bulk data, then you should do it in like multiple chunks. So there's a method repo.insert all in Ecto, which through which you can insert chunks. Say instead of inserting one row at a time, you can insert 100 rows at a time. That is faster. So I've used that. So so how did I make this part parallel? And here, this thing that I showed initially, this database workers and job queue thing, this part comes in over here, and I'll say how it is working, and it's like pretty interesting. So what happens is, like, when you are accessing the database, you might think that I could do it in a similar fashion, like for what I did for the schema. So I can chunk parts of the, say I'm reading a CSV file, and I can take chunks out from it, and I can insert parallelly into the database. So say there will be 1,000 processes inserting into the database. So since this might look as a good idea, since we will be inserting the data very fast, but we have an additional factor over here, and that is the database. And this is not like in the Elixir's control, right? So the database has certain limitations. It cannot like, you cannot write into the database so fast, so you will be facing errors like too many connections or DB connection errors, something like that. So you cannot go on writing using too many processes into a database, so there must be some control. So that is where you have to like have some control. So I'll show you how that works. So the earlier approach, like starting a process for each of the chunks, and doing it in parallel, having hundreds of processes analyzing the schema, that won't work in this case because of the database, because the database is sort of a bottleneck here. So what we are doing here is, instead we are having the file, we are streaming the file and parsing the CSV as we did earlier. And like earlier, we are again chunking parts of the CSVs. So say we are chunking 100 rows at a time, but instead we are doing something else over here. So let me show you what is happening before going into the code. So this job queue server actually maintains a queue type of thing, which is sort of a control, so that we don't end up writing to the database very fast. So uh, say we can have at most 10 processes writing to the database at a particular time, and this job queue server actually queues the data that is to be inserted into a database. So what is happening here is, this our workers are actually reading the data from the CSV file, and they are placing the data into this queue server. So say a worker read 100 lines of the CSV file and placed those 100 lines in memory in this queue. Another worker read another 100 files, like another 100 lines from some other file, and placed it into this job queue server. So we are basically placing lines of the CSV into the job queue server, and this database workers will ping the job queue server for work. So the one of the database worker requests some work from the job queue server, and it gives it a chunk of data that is to be inserted to the database, and it inserts the data from the into the database, and then it again recursively requests for another piece of work, and all the database workers are doing that. So basically what is happening is, each of the worker are actually reading the CSV and putting chunks of the CSV into this queue, and this DB workers are actually like requesting some work from the queue and inserting the data from the queue into the database. So there there's a control. As you can see, the queue is the control. So you actually write into the queue and you're reading from the queue. So there are certain things that I want to talk about. So if you think about it, what I actually told is, I will be actually picking up chunks of data from the database, and I will be placing into the queue. So basically I'm placing the contents of the database into the queue. The queue is nothing like it's a like a Elixir map. So basically you are placing data into the memory, right? So you will again run into problems like memory overflow, because you will be taking big CSVs and putting it into your queue, and that will lead to a database overload. So there has to be some limit on what will be the queue size, right? You can't place the whole CSVs into a queue, like you can't place the contents of all the CSVs into a queue at once. So that was also something that I had to take into account, because initially when I did it, my RAM got uh, even with 16 gigs of RAM, it did not suffice. So I will talk about how it's doing that. So once we pick up a chunk, we give that chunk to this function, check job queue, and we tell it the file to whom that chunk belongs. Say for the file 15, I am giving you a chunk. So this job queue check job queue server is like check job queue method is called, function is called. So what it does is it basically checks the queue. Okay, so by default you can set the queue size. So from using some environment variables you can configure the queue size. So by default it is 10. By 10 I mean that you can place at most 10 chunks of data into the queue at once. If you are placing more than 10 chunks of data, it will not allow you to do that. So there's a limit to how much of the memory you will be taking. If you have, say you have very high memory capacity in your machine, you can configure the like the queue size to be larger, or you can even reduce it if you have not so capable machine or that. So what it does, it basically say there's a job count limit. Basically this job count limit is nothing but the queue size. So say this is 10 by default, and there's a job count. So the job count is actually the number of chunks that are currently placed in the queue. So we ping the queue server and we get the job count. So say at a particular time the job count was 5. So we got that the queue currently holds 5 chunks of data, and we also get the limit that is the limit of the data that we can put in the queue, and we find that we can put, suppose say 10 chunks of data into the queue. So we find that we check if the job count is greater than the job limit. So we check if the queue is empty, basically, like by empty I mean there's a space left in the queue. So if we find that the queue is not full and the limit is not crossed, then we can go on and add a chunk into the queue. But if the limit is crossed, then we will recursively iterate. So I'll talk more about it. So say the queue limit has not crossed. So the queue currently holds 5 chunks of data and the maximum limit is 10. So we can still insert more chunks of data into the queue. So we add this chunk of data into the queue, and this chunk will later on picked up by my database workers and will be inserted into the database. So this process just this has nothing to do with inserting into a database. It just picks up the chunks and places into the job queue, and the database workers are responsible for picking up from the queue and inserting into a database. So we do that. So for but say at a particular instance we find that the job queue is full, we have crossed the limit. So in that case what we do is we call this method once again, check job queue, and this method is called once again, and it again checks whether the job queue is empty. It again finds it's not empty, it again calls itself, and it's recursive. So at a particular time, say in the meantime a database worker actually took one job piece of work from the job queue and inserted the data, and so the job queue is now has say some space. So when it's called recursively, we find that there's space, and we then place the data chunk. So and we move on to the next chunk. So we do so. So this is the sort of control I have done. So and this actually solves the problem. So basically, as an overview, what is happening is like we are picking up chunks of data from the CSV file, and like this is happening with one file itself. So what we are doing is we are inserting the parts of the same file parallelly into the database. So say you have a big CSV file, 10 GB. So you will be inserting parts of that CSV file parallelly into the database. The order does not matter here. So there's no order. So say you will be inserting parts of the file parallelly into a database, and this will be a lot faster than sequentially reading the database and inserting into the sequentially reading the file and inserting. So and what is happening here, we are basically picking up the chunks, placing into that queue, and a separate set of workers, database workers, will ping that queue and will be like inserting the data from that queue into the database. And at a particular time, if I find that the queue is full, then I recursively keep on checking where that is the queue empty until I find that the queue is empty. When I find the queue is empty, then I place the current work into the queue and move on to the next work. So this is how there's a control, and this is how this queue and this thing comes up. So this architecture or this model is completely what I have come up with. There can be a better solution to this, and uh, initially I I thought like a recursive way of waiting for something would not be a good way, but I found that in Elixir and Erlang, this recursive waiting is pretty optimized, and it is the way things are done. So I went on with this approach, and it actually works pretty well. I will show it to you. And in this manner, after all the files are inserted into a database, then we do some simple validation checks and stuff. So this is how whole of it is working. I have just gone over the interesting part because it's like the whole code is very big and stuff. So let me show you some things that make like one of my questions was that how can we utilize gen servers actually to make a difference, like what is the use of it. I understand we have multiple processes and all, but how could we benefit from it? So let me just show you how we are actually benefiting. So
Arpan,
yeah,
question:
yes,
how
yeah,
do you decide how many processes can write to the database simultaneously?
yeah.
Also, how do you come up with how many chunks to put in queue? Consider your machine has 16 GB RAM.
Yeah, so this is something you have to kind of experiment and try. So say you can the database has a lot of configuration parameters, like you can increase the pool size, the database queue time, and all those things. So you can configure them and try out by different, like increasing the processor and checking with some sample CSVs that whether you're getting a better time or whether it's taking more time. So if you just arbitrarily increase the processes very much, then you will face issues like the database will give up and it will say like it's timed out. So that is how we decide. But for now, there's no concrete way of like saying that this is the safe process count. It differs from PC, like machine to machine, and what is the processor power you're having, and the database write speed, and database thing that you're having. So I have kept the default to a safe value, say 10 processes, and I have tried this like running this application in some less powerful machines, and it this setting seems to work. But if you have a more capable machine, you can try out with a different setting to get even more juice out of your say your PC power, so and getting a more efficiency. Okay, so that you can try. And regarding how many chunks of data you can put in memory at once, that is also something that you can try. So say if you have a CSV which is very huge, so even a single chunk of data, say 100 rows, but each row has say 100 columns. So even 100 rows will be very huge because each row has 100 columns, right? So even writing keeping placing 100 rows in the memory will can lead to a memory overflow in your case, if you are having a like that sort of a CSV file. So if you are having such a case, then you have to so that's why everything is configurable. You can reduce the number of chunks that can be placed in the like the queue at once. So you can reduce the queue size, so that is configurable. So you can reduce the queue size. Initially it's 10, so you can place like 10 chunks of data in the queue at once. So you can reduce it something to 2 or 3, or you can experiment to get a better result or to avoid memory issues and something like that. So that's how you do it for now. And I think uh, I was able to answer your question. So I'm proceeding. If there's any more question, do tell me. So as I said, I always was curious that how gen servers actually made a difference. So I'll show you that what is the difference when you try to insert data like without any parallelism and with some parallelism. So say there's a CSV file, a single CSV file. It's a little bit big, say 50 MB, but this is like not that much big. You could have GBs of CSV, but for the sake of demonstration, I have kept it to 50 MB. So this is a CSV file, 50 MB CSV file, and let me okay. So let me show you something. So here I actually started inserting this CSV file, and I actually included a flag. As I said, you can configure anything, and in here I specified the database worker count. So I said the database worker count to 1, meaning that I will have only one database worker. That means I will be placing multiple chunks of data into the queue, but there will be only one worker which will be processing it. So it's basically like sequential, no parallelism involved. So one worker will pick up that chunk, it will insert the data into a database, then it will go for the next chunk. So it's sort of sequential. There's no, yeah. So let's see the performance that it gives us using one worker only. By default, if you don't specify anything, the worker count is 10. So you can specify anything using this flag. And if you go into the repository, you will find a lot of such flags through which you can specify this insertion chunk size, worker count, database worker count. All of these I have provided these flags, so you can configure this. There are some examples also. So if you are interested, you can explore these things. So yeah, so let us just see how much time this takes to insert a 50 MB CSV. This CSV has about 3 lakh rows, so it will be inserting 3 lakh rows into the database, and with one database worker. So let's see how much time it takes. So we'll wait for like a minute, and then I will run the same. I will insert the same file with 10 database workers, so we can have a idea of how much of a difference this multiple processes and using gen servers and is making actually. And we will get an idea of uh, this thing. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, then you can tell me in the meanwhile. This will take about 2 minutes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I believe there is some room for refactoring this code.
Yeah.
Is this code open source and pull request accepted?
Yeah, it's like completely open source, and this is sort of an hobby project I've made by myself. So you can of course suggest something like and I can
Yes,
make a
there
you can make a pull request. Yeah.
Yes, there are too many of if else requests, if
Yeah,
else,
yeah.
and I think this can be, there is a room for refactoring.
Yeah. Of course, yes. Yeah. So as I said in the beginning, like this is something. The code is not at all like the best possible code that is written, but whatever time I got, I wrote it. So there's a lot of room for making the code better, and even changing functionality, so we get like better functionality. And so you are if you are interested, you can go through the code. You can open up a pull request, and I will be happy to check it out. So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me just go through this. So it inserted about 3 lakh rows, and it took about 150 seconds, right? So just remember the time it took. It took about 150 seconds. So I will delete whatever thing it created, and I'll be doing it once again. So, and this time I'll be doing it with say 10 processes. So by default it is like 10 processes. So I will remove this flag. So it will be using 10 processes. So let us see the time it takes this time. Just give it a minute. Yeah, so regarding that if else part, the problem was like since I have kept all of the things customizable, so there are instances where you won't like you can do things like partial tasks. So you can do like only inserting schema, only making the file, only validating data. So you might not be interested in doing the whole all of the tasks that this app does. So you can specify these using environment variables, and using this these arguments. So that is why I have used those if else, but I am sure that the code has become a little bit ugly due to that. So that can be refactored and done in a better way. So yeah. So let me show you how much time it took. So it basically took 41 seconds, right? And earlier it took something like 150 seconds or something, I remember. So yeah. So you can see the difference, right? It inserted these 3 lakh rows in 41 seconds. Just by using multiple processes, you are getting this much of a like a performance difference. So you can imagine, say, if you have hundreds of CSVs and GBs of CSVs, and how much of a difference it will make if you are using parallelism, gen servers, processes, instead of doing it in a sequential manner. One of my colleagues actually wrote a Python script to do this, and to insert the data into a database. And while doing this sequentially, the Python script was a bit better than Elixir. But if I use this, say, multiple processes and all, so it beats it using by a huge margin. So this is where I think uh, you can see how powerful Elixir is. And since creating processes, all these things are very cheap, so you can create thousands of processes without any worries. And this is how it's working. And this was one of my demo projects, so to try out and understand gen servers better. And I think it has worked out like pretty well, and the app is sort of stable. It has some bugs and problems which I hope to fix later on as I get more time. And some people have asked me to have support for Postgres also. Regarding, for now, I only have a support for MySQL. So for Postgres, there will be support for Postgres maybe in the future. So I will be try to have Postgres support for this app also. So I think that's all I wanted to show you guys. So if you have any questions, you can ask me. And if you are interested, you can go to this repo. It's completely open source. You can have your suggestions, pull request, anything you want to change, and you can contribute if you are interested. So yeah, so I think that's it. Yeah.
Thanks, Arpan. There is a question. It's
Yes.
not quite clear to me. So, Girish, I'll unmute you. Go ahead and ask the question.
Yeah.
Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Uh, I probably missed a little bit in between, I'm guessing. So, in terms of validating, right, which it validates also, does it check all the data or just count of the rows?
Yeah, no, the validation phase is pretty simple for now. It's just counting the row count. It's actually not checking whether the actual data is like there. So maybe we can extend it. I can do something to actually validate the data. But for now, it's actually checking just the row count, whether the number of rows in the CSVs match to the number of rows in the database. So that's what it's doing. So like for example, in this example, it actually created this test database and inserted all these files, as you can see. So it will just go into the file, and it will just this is the data in the file. So it will just go into the file. It will check the row count and what is the row count in the CSVs, and if it matches, then it says that the validation is successful. So it's like simple count checking, not anything like anything intelligent. So that's what is.
Okay. Because I was just thinking if we are chunking out the files and pushing it in parallel, then if
Yeah.
you actually have to validate the data, then it kind of is a little bit of challenging in terms of you don't know. Say since they're all in parallel, you don't know which chunk went where, kind of thing.
Yeah. The thing is like even when we are inserting the data like in chunks. So the advantage is like when we are loading into a database, we don't have any ordering issues. So even if the last set of 10 rows, say, are inserted first into the database table, so it doesn't actually matter that much. So we don't have to worry how, in what order did the chunks actually get inserted into a database. And there is no no problem like say the chunk from a wrong file will be inserted into the wrong table, because when we are inserting the chunk, we have that file name and table name, so that thing is not there. But yeah, more testing is required for this app. Of course, I have only tested it out over a couple of CSVs, and yeah, so I'm sure there are bugs which can be corrected. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
There is another question. Can this be used to append to a table which already have some data?
No, for now that is not possible. So since it is not possible to append to a table, what happens is when we are doing it, it actually creates the table, and if the table is already present, it will drop the table. So it will drop the table if it existed, and then it will like create the table and insert the data. So there's no option as of now to append data, because actually when I made this app, I initially I had my use case in my views. Say, as I said in the beginning, I had this problem in my job that I had to import CSVs. So I made this app keeping in view that thing. But later on, as I went on, I started adding some more features so that other people can use it. So for now, that is not possible, like partially updating a table or inserting into a table that is already existing. Yeah, but we can think about something like that in the future if uh, yeah, if that is also possible. Anything else? Anyone has any questions or any suggestions?
There is a question: is it required to reindex the? Okay, it starts with, I don't know. Is it required to reindex the MySQL database as the chunks could be saved anywhere, creating read performance issues, or is this handled by indexes automatically?
So for now, there's no like I haven't looked at that indexing issue that you're talking about. Like this actually does insert into the database directly. There's no index in check or anything like that. So if you are having some issues for that, this is basically like for raw inserting the data from the CSV into the database. If you are worried about, say, if you want to have database constraints, indexes for faster queries and stuff, those things you will have to figure out manually. So there's no like that has not been taken into account for now. So it just like fires queries and inserts into a database. So yeah, and to be honest, I haven't looked at those parts as of now, but yeah. So uh, indexing hasn't been done for now. So yeah.
Do we have any more questions? Not, we'll be closing in like 2 minutes. Cool. Thanks, Arpan, for the talk. This was very informative. Like starting with the design of the whole application that you shared, that itself, that architecture itself was very informative. And then the code walkthrough. Really appreciate sharing the code. I've shared the link of the GitHub in the Q&A. You can also share it in our Telegram groups and Discord groups.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Cool.